Kia ora, good evening. The holiday season is now over and it's often a busy time for our police who spend extra time and resources monitoring our roads and attending a large increase in call-outs. Today we caught up with the Invercargill police to find out just how busy they've been.
This time of the year we always concentrate for Southland, it's always around that Milford, Sound, Te Anau, sort of Ethel area. And the tourist season obviously peaks up over the summer period, so we put additional road policing staff up there. We do still have, unfortunately, quite a few complaints in relation to tourist drivers, but we've been working quite closely with rental car companies and the tourist industry around preventing some of those serious incidents.
And how has the drink driving rate been since the new laws were introduced?
Pleasingly, we've had very few drink drivers. As you're probably aware, we did some campaigns, started the first week of December when the new legislation came in. And so, especially leading up to Christmas, we didn't have any apprehensions for that lower rate, which was quite good. And the feedback we had from the community, we did several checkpoints, was actually quite positive. So that was really good.
There have been a number of burglaries over the past few months. How has the police response been to these?
The burglaries, unfortunately, again, always do increase this time of the year. And even interestingly, this morning we were reviewing our stats. So what tends to happen is people go away on holiday and then they come back and then they report either a burglary in perhaps a farm property or in a house. The stats themselves don't look too bad this year, but we certainly, especially over the last week, we've had a large increase in fuel being stolen, and that's diesel and petrol and from the farming community.
And how can people ensure they don't fall victim to this?
What we do encourage people to do is if perhaps talking with your neighbours, and if one of the neighbours isn't perhaps going away, maybe having a later holiday, that person keeps an eye on your property for you, or perhaps other relatives or friends that might live in your community that can keep an eye on you. That's one thing. Second thing is to postpone your mail or your newspaper. Just stop those sort of deliveries, because that's always a giveaway, as if the letterbox is overflowing with mail and perhaps papers that are piling up on the driveway.
Where are the police at in terms of the aggravated robbery cases?
Pleasingly, with aggravated robbery, they've all been solved. Obviously, I can't talk about individual cases because they are still before the court. We are doing some additional work with some of our smaller retail areas that are open for that 24-hour period, and we do want to have a focus on prevention and staff safety for those people. We also have rostered our team, especially our night shift, to spend additional time around some of those areas that have been targeted recently. But we are certainly looking at doing some work with the business managers and owners around their staff safety.
Falling river levels have forced the Gore District Council to initiate this summer's first round of water restrictions. Level 2 water restrictions are in place for Gore, meaning the use of hoses, sprinklers and irrigation systems is only allowed on alternate days between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Therefore, if a person's address is an even number, they can water their garden on even numbered days, and vice versa for odd numbered properties. Despite good water levels prior to Christmas, the prolonged hot, dry spell has seen water usage steadily increase. Mataura residents are also urged to conserve water. Invercargill's Racecourse Road is proving an obstacle for motorists, with PowerNet installing new underground cabling. Electricity Invercargill Limited is building a new substation to ensure city homes and businesses have a reliable and secure power supply and capacity for the future. This involves laying new underground 33 kV cabling from Finlay Road to Spey Street along more than 4 kilometres of trench. Most of the trenching work's been done down the centre of roads to minimise disruption. The civil works are underway because the Doon Street substation required significant maintenance and was deemed a seismic risk. Cabling works are expected to be complete in March. Stewart Island has been known to attract hikers and trampers of all expertise for its beautiful scenery and various remote trails. But one Invercargill man plans to do and see the lot, all in under 50 hours. On Thursday, Southern DHB nurse Matt Hamblett will attempt to run 170 kilometres of Stewart Island in under 50 hours to raise awareness surrounding mental health. Sharon Rees caught up with Matt to find out what's involved in such a big feat.
I'll be setting off to run around Stewart Island, so the Southern and Norwest circuits, which is about 170 odd k's of mud and glorious views, and if I stop, sandflies. For this, the High 50, Malcolm Law is running 50 mountain marathons in 50 days, raising money for the Mental Health Foundation, and my run around Stewart Island is in support of his efforts.
So what factors do you have to watch for when you're doing something like this?
Well, I've got to account for the weather, and the weather forecast has been improving, so that's really good. Allowing myself enough food whilst keeping the pack weight down, so it's been quite a process of working out what food I can take and how much of it I'll allow myself. So I'm looking at about 200 to 300 calories an hour for the entire time, so there's a lot of powdered chocolate milk to go into my body over that time, and keeping the salt levels in my body right as well, so I can keep focused. That really is the main thing, is keeping enough energy going so you can stay focused on what's going on around you. It's just making sure you've got the right food, the right gear, and that you're physically prepared for it as well. Yeah.
Why have you chosen to raise awareness for mental health specifically?
Initially, I saw Malcolm Law's efforts, and people that I ran with were talking about this and getting in, supporting him, because. And then myself, I work as a nurse in the mental health service in Invercargill here, and have done for the last 6 years. And so I've really seen the effects of what life stresses and illness can bring to people's lives. Yeah, the more we talk about it and the more we see the stress that people go through as a normal part of life, that it's not something to be hidden away and ashamed of, but B, also something that can be managed, the better, yeah.
Still to come on the bulletin, a new weapon in the battle against marine pests in Fiordland, plus Winton's skate park project gathers speed. Welcome back. There's soon to be a new weapon in the arsenal to keep Fiordland's waters clean and pristine, with the purchase of an inflatable quarantine facility. Funded jointly by Environment Southland and the Ministry for Primary Industries, boaties can expect to be monitored and boats defouled in situ if necessary, using the purpose-built $40,000 inflatable pontoon with PVC floor.
Currently, if a vessel arrives in our waters with hull fouling, particularly if it contains a pest, a designated pest, it would have to go to a facility on land where it could be taken out and cleaned and removed as quickly as possible. So that's fine in a situation where you've got a dry dock or something like that, you've got something to get out of the water. But if, for example, a vessel was found with marine pests on it in Fiordland where there are no facilities, then we have to have another strategy, and that's where this quarantine facility comes in.
How will it be policed, if you like, on the waters? Are they coming into a dock and being checked, or are they just somebody out there cruising the waters checking on them?
Well, at Bluff, Ministry of Primary Industries have actually funded a monthly vessel survey. So all the vessels that have associated with Fiordland are checked on a regular basis, and the owners are advised if their vessels need to be cleaned, and that system works quite well. But if we go into Fiordland, it may be that vessels are coming from other ports, from other parts of New Zealand. They may arrive, they may be found in a routine survey or in an inspection tour or something like that, and so we really need to have the ability to deal with the problem there and then, rather than to be caught out with a vessel sitting there wondering what to do. We've actually got the ability with this facility to bring it in, because it's portable, blow it up and treat the vessel as. It won't be a cheap exercise, but we certainly don't want to get into a situation where we get another marine pest established in Fiordland, because the Undaria find in Sunday Cove and back in April 2010 has cost the agencies about $600,000 to try and get rid of it. So clearly a small amount of cost taken at this stage could save a great deal of cost in the future. And of course Fiordland's got quite a unique marine environment, marine ecology, and we feel, well, there's a general view that marine pests could have a really devastating impact on that. So we've got to make every effort to try and prevent these harmful organisms from getting in there.
How does it work logistically? You pull up alongside a boat, perhaps a recreational boat, which you want to clean the hull of.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, that's an interesting question because we haven't actually used one of these pieces of equipment before. We're going to have to work out. It's going to have to be transported into Fjordland. It weighs about 300 kilograms. It can be slung under a helicopter. It could be transported by a boat. It's like a big rubber dinghy. You unroll it on the water, you inflate it, and then you've got a big drape around the pontoons where you can pull the vessel inside the structure, and then you blow up the back, and effectively it isolates the craft. You then remove the excess water by pumping, and then you can introduce a treatment chemical like chlorine, and that will kill all the organisms on the hull of the vessel, hopefully within about 24 hours. Then you back the vessel out, and effectively it should be leaving with nothing living on it. So that's the way that you actually treat the vessel in situ. But in saying that, it sounds relatively simple, but I'm sure there's going to be quite a few practical issues when we get down to it. But we'll nut those out.
Who will be paying for the service if somebody arrives in Fjordland from Marlborough or perhaps somewhere else with something on the boat that they're not happy about, where you have to decontaminate it? Who's going to be charged with that?
Well, it's going to be a user pays process, so that means that the vessel owner could be up for quite a lot of money. We've done some very rough estimates on the cost of doing a treatment in Fjordland, and we're probably looking at something like $10,000. I think what we have to realise is before we start using it, we're going to have to make sure that the word gets out to all vessel operators or people likely to come to Fjordland that if you come into Fjordland with a boat that is carrying marine pests, you could be up for a fairly healthy shock.
Scooter, skateboard and bike enthusiasts in Winton have achieved another spoke in the wheel with a major grant. Community Trust of Southland recently confirmed a $30,000 grant, and another $50,000 contribution is set to be confirmed by the Southland District Council in June. The latest funding announcements help to top the up to $45,000 that's already been raised through various community-based initiatives. Winton Skate Park Trust are also applying to the Lotteries Commission for a significant part of the $390,000 required to complete the project. If successful, the new skate park construction could be underway in September. And that brings us to a close this Tuesday. Sport is along next after the weather. From the news team, good night.